Hi there. My name is Jal Patel. I'm the editor of AlevelPolitics.com. And today, what I'm going to do is go through an overview of the socialism topic. So, over the next few sessions, I'm going to go through the key ideas, the key issues in socialism as part of the Edexcel or AQA A-level politics syllabus. And by the end of these 3 or 4 sessions, I haven't quite worked out how many sessions they're going to be, but by the end of these 3 or 4 sessions, you should have a very good understanding of the socialism topic, and you should be able to answer the most common questions of socialism. Now, a little bit about myself. I run this website, alevelpolitics.com. You can come to it, and we've got examples of essays up there written by students that I've checked. I also do regular webinars as well as face-to-face revision conferences once exam season comes around. So you're welcome to attend my sessions. Do sign up to my Substack account. That is an account that's an opportunity for you to receive my weekly newsletters whenever there's a key political event or a key issue that needs to be discussed. I usually weave it into A-level context. So it's well worth following me on my Substack account. You can go to my website and you can access my Substack through subscriptions. You can just click on subscribe. It's free of charge, and you should be able to access my newsletter. I'm also a Financial Times subject advisor, so you can see my articles on the FT Schools website, and again you can see some links to that through my A-level politics website. So let's begin. So socialism is, of course, one of the three ideas that the exam board asks students to know a lot about. So remember, the exam board, both AQA and Edexcel, require you to know about socialism, conservatism, and liberalism. And the way you're going to be examined will be quite similar. Now, I'm going to focus on the way by which Edexcel examines students. It's not very different from AQA, but you need to refer to your teacher just for the very specifics on essay writing for AQA. For those of you who want further guidance on writing the 24-mark essays for Edexcel, the political ideas essays, I've got up a separate tutorial for that. Just make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll be able to access that free tutorial, and it will go through how to answer a 24-mark question. Right, so let's start with the Strands and Thinkers. And I think sometimes the textbooks aren't very good when it comes to explaining the Strands and Thinkers. Many of the textbooks, what they do is, so previously there was a political ideas course, but it was a year-long course within the A-level. So it was like global or US. Another option was the political ideologies. And what a lot of the textbook companies have done is they've just used the same content, and then they've tried to scrunch it up into a more limited political ideas course. The problem with doing that is sometimes they put too much information, and information that's just not required. So a key case in point is one of the textbooks, in fact, one or two of the textbooks, what they do is they give us 4 or 5 strands of socialism, and they talk about revisionist socialism. And they talk about terms which you don't really need to know about because it doesn't fit into either of the AQA or Edexcel syllabuses. So I've kept it simple here, but I've kept it what is I've mentioned here what is required. You do not need to know about the 5 strands. Of course, it's good for general knowledge. Fine, that's perfectly fine. But I don't think you need to know that to pass an exam. So I'm going to tell you what you need to know to pass an exam. Right, I'm not going to give you the superfluous stuff. In the same way, you don't need to know about the thinkers and their backgrounds, right? So what Karl Marx went through, what Beatrice Webb went through, what Anthony Crosland went through, their background, their history. You don't need to know that because you don't need to write about it in a political ideas essay. So I'm going to take all of that out and just focus on what you need to know to answer a political ideas question. So let's start with a quick overview. Let's talk about Strands and Thinkers. Now, the Edexcel specification, and actually the AQA, makes reference to three broad categories of socialism. So it's important that you know what these three are and what they generally stand for. So you've got revolutionary socialism, also known as Marxism. And revolutionary socialism looks to overthrow the existing political order, the existing government, and the societal structures, the House of Lords, and the various institutions within society. And only when you overthrow the government and these institutions can you achieve socialism. So revolution is the only pathway to socialism. So revolutionary socialism is closely identified with communism. So if you think about the Russian Revolution in 1917 and the development of a communist state in Russia, that's an example of revolutionary socialism, where a group of people decided to overthrow a government and replace all of the institutions and systems of society with what they call the Bolsheviks, or with a Marxist framework, right? So revolutionaries believe in overthrowing the entire system. Now, social democracy or social democrats, they have a different view about the system. So where revolutionaries believe that capitalism is the root of all evil and capitalism needs to be uprooted, what they believe is that capitalism can be humanized. So social democrats believe that revolution is not a good thing. Revolution creates upheaval, unnecessary upheaval. They believe that capitalism is resilient, but capitalism needs to change. So the way to change capitalism is to change it gradually, through a democratic means, through the ballot box, through voting, right? And if you bring in social democratic parties like the Labour Party in the UK, you'll be able to introduce the welfare state and introduce aspects of nationalisation. And by doing that, you're going to make capitalism kinder. You're going to humanize it. So social democrats believe in humanizing capitalism. By the way, I should have said this at the start, but it's always wise to take notes as I speak. Even if you think you know this, it's good to just take some quick notes, because you can always refer back to those notes. But more importantly, when you write something down as you hear it, you're going to remember it more in the future than if you just hear it. Now, you've got the third way. Now, the third way are also called socialists, but they're not really socialists. I suppose we can call them socialists because they come from a socialist root. Most of them used to be social democrats, right? So they've come from the same background. But the third way, I suppose, is a middle ground solution between capitalism, free market capitalism on the one hand, and social democrats on the other. Now, they believe that free market capitalism is pretty sound, but they also believe that the state needs to focus on the most deprived people in society. So they don't have a commitment to equality in the sort of social democratic or even the revolutionary sense, and I'll explain that as we go along. Yet they still believe that the state has some role in society. Right? So they're not classical liberals. They're not free market liberals in that sense, because they believe in a state. Remember, liberals do not believe that the state should have much of an impact on our lives. Well, they believe that the state can do good, but the state shouldn't really interfere too radically in the capitalist free market. So you've got the third way. And when it comes to thinkers, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels and Rosa Luxemburg are who we call revolutionary socialists. There is a difference between the first two and Rosa Luxemburg, but they are still within the revolutionary socialist section or strand. I'm going to come back to Beatrice Webb in a second. You've got Anthony Crosland, who's a social democrat, a very clear social democrat, and you've got Anthony Giddens, who's a third way. Now, Beatrice Webb does not fall into any of these three categories. Now, your teachers and the textbook will try their best to explain who Beatrice Webb is and which category she actually falls into. Because her category does not belong to our specification, ignore it and maybe even ignore her. Now, this is a controversial point, but you only need to have two political thinkers when you write an essay. I would suggest know about three so that you can write, in case you get one wrong, so you can write the essay properly. But you need to know about two at least very well. And so in this sense, you probably just need to ignore Beatrice Webb. If you do want to write about her, she influences the Social Democrats. So in a sense, she is part of the influencers of the ones who, or she is a political theorist who talks about evolutionary change. And of course, Social Democrats believe not in revolution, but evolution. But I think that's where it stops. You can't really link her to any one of the ideas, so don't worry about it. Okay, let's then talk about the core ideas of socialism. I'm going to go through this very quickly because we come back to this. But the exam board require you to know about socialism when it comes to the following key ideas: collectivism, common humanity, equality, social class, and workers' control. So you've got to know about these 5 socialist ideas, and you've got to know how these 5 ideas link to human nature, society, the economy, and the state. The typical questions you would get for socialism would be, for example, to what extent do socialists believe in collectivism? Or to what extent do socialists have a united view of human nature, or the society, or the economy, or the state? So we can say for sure that if you were to learn these 9 potential essays, and I'm going to talk about these in the next couple of slides, then you're quite close to answering every possible socialism questions. And that's what I do with my students. When I do this, when I speak to my students, or when I have these, when I host a regular political ideas webinar towards after January, so I'm speaking now in October, although it's a very warm October, you may hear the ice cream van in the background, which is quite strange for October, I have to say. It's like 18 degrees outside. So, global warming is real, guys. But when I host those webinars in January, I normally tell students, we're going to go through all of the possible essays. And every year, students come back to me and say, one of those essays that you talked about did come up, right? So, my advice is just learn these 9 essays, plus 1 or 2 more, which I will talk about as we go along. And you've basically revised the whole of socialism. My advice to you is not to revise socialism through the textbook. Students get confused through the textbooks, right? Incidentally, I'm writing a textbook with my method to explain socialism. So it'll be great to get your support in the comments section of this YouTube video, but also subscribe to my YouTube, because once I publish that textbook, you obviously will be the first to know. Okay. So here's a quick summary of what the ideas are, what collectivism, common humanity, equality, and social class and workers' control are. If you want a copy of this slide and all of my socialism slides, just go over to my website. I will put a link in the comments section of this video. Go over to my website and there'll be a link to the place where you can access my keynotes, my PowerPoints. So that's perfectly fine. Right. So here are some past exam questions. In 2019, they asked a question about whether socialism have conflicting views over the economy, or how the economy should operate. In 2020, they asked a question about whether they've got a similar view on class, a view of society on class. And here are some potential questions. Again, I'm not going to dwell on these because I'm going to be going through most of these questions in these recorded videos. So I'm going to take a question at a time, or at least some of these questions, and we'll work through that. So to what extent do socialists have a consistent attitude towards the state? To what extent do socialists have a common view of human nature, a singular understanding of society, a differ on the notion of collectivism, a different socialist, how are different socialists committed to equality, the importance of workers' control, the how socialists differ on social class, how they agree or disagree on the economy, how they view equality in relation to the state, and how they view human nature based on equality, right? So these are some example questions. What I've done really here is I've just linked it. I've taken each of these points or each of these, and I've concluded some questions from them. So you can take a screenshot, or you can go to my website and get access to this, right? So this is a quick summary. Join me on this journey. I'm going to go through the common questions on socialism, and by the end of it, you should be able to answer a socialism question. Now, please do subscribe to my YouTube video and subscribe to my Substack newsletter, because that's where I send out regular updates on things that I'm doing. But I hope this year, so I'm in 2022 now, end of 22, beginning of 23, I hope to put up many more videos. If you've got any suggestions on videos I should be filming, so I've got a whole list of PowerPoints I need to get through, but it'd be great to get a steer on what you think I should start with, or what I should do after I've completed socialism. So your advice will be very valuable. Any questions, leave it in the comments, and look out for my second video.